everyone, it's Museum Modeler here again, ready for another little unboxing review. This is going to be a look at Tamiya's 1/700 scale USS Saratoga CV-3 kit. This kit came out a couple of years ago, and I held off on picking it up until I could find a good deal on the deluxe set that Tamiya released in conjunction with Pontos. So this kit is not only the stock Tamiya kit, but also the really nice and detailed Pontos photo etch set, which I'll take a look at that at the end of this video as well. So let's go ahead and start with the kit. This is Saratoga in her late war appearance. The ship was modernized many times during her life. Built in 1926, she was launched, commissioned in 27, several upgrades before and during World War II. The build, as Tamiya has called out, is the ship in her 1944-1945 appearance, late 44, 1945, where she's really heavy on anti-aircraft armament, no more 8-inch guns. The box art is nice. It shows the ship in measure 21, which is navy blue 5N overall. This is when she was a night fighting carrier. In conjunction with CV-6 Enterprise. They fought until February of 45 when Saratoga was taken out of the war with a kamikaze hit. But all that aside, oh, you could build the kit, by the way, I suppose, as sunk vignette, since she was sunk in 1946 at Bikini Atoll in the Operation Crossroads nuclear tests. You'd have to do some basic modification to the armament, but by and large it'd be the same kit, so that might be a fun project if you're so inclined. But let's open the box and take a look at things. The bags do come sealed, by the way. I've just already have opened them so I can take a look at the kit myself. Your standard Tamiya instructions, long form. There's really nothing to call out here, aside from the fact that if you have built other Tamiya carrier kits in the past, you have been requested to take some stretched sprue and snip it into pieces to make gun barrels. Thank goodness Tamiya seems to have gotten over that phase, so they've moved on from that insanity. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and move the box off camera so I can look at each fret individually here. Start with the main hull. So it's a waterline kit, and it is two-piece hull, so it's split along the keel, or what would be the keel. That means that you will have to clean up the bow and stern. There's going to be a bit of a seam line there. Luckily, the edges are pretty sharp, so I don't anticipate that being too much of a problem. The hull plating is present but subdued. Let me see if I can't get that illustrated here. So there are fine raised lines for horizontal plating. There's no vertical shell plating. I'm not a big fan of overdone plating, and I'm not saying that to say this is overdone. I'm just saying that this is just enough. Any more than this, though, and I would say it's too much. It'll pop nicely with some weathering. A few light passes with the sanding stick wouldn't kill you. Let's see. We got some boat pockets. By this part in the war, Saratoga had all of her boats removed, and these were replaced with anti-aircraft 40mm Bofors mostly. Here's your funnel, two-piece. I have built Trumpeter's 1/700 scale USS Lexington, and that funnel looks to be basically the same type of construction. No real problems there. I like this little touch, the funnel grills. Here we go. They are cut, so if you don't want to replace them with photo etch, you don't have to. Photo etch will of course look better, but that's totally acceptable in my book. The fact that those are not molded closed and they are open. So points for that to me. And the last major thing on this fret is just a big piece of the stern. These are your gun tubs. Slightly thick splinter shielding, but that's going to happen in 1/700 scale. You can always try to replace it with photo etch. Trust me though, that's a bear. It's a real bad day waiting to happen if you're not right in the frame of mind. The thick splinter shields are, it's going to happen. I wouldn't worry too much about it. All right, and looks like a piece of superstructure there as well next to the funnel. All right, moving on. Here's your flight deck. Obviously, it's one piece, so no nasty seam lines to worry about if you needed to glue that together. There is some planking detail. It's what you normally get in 1/700, so it's It's not awful. And by the way, that sounds like a backhanded compliment, but it really is not intended to be. The fine lines on this flight deck are good. You know, I've got no complaints here. Molded closed elevators, they cannot be opened. That'll be new for me since I've never built a carrier that didn't have elevators opened. But actually running my finger along the underside. Hey, boy, I stand corrected. Score lines. So if you wanted to score those out, you could. That said, there is no hanger deck on this kit. There's no parts supplied or anything of that nature, so you'd have to do gobs of scratch building if you wanted to. I'm going to build it closed. I've always built my carriers with open decks. I'm going to take this welcome change of pace to just enjoy a closed flight deck. These I really like these arrestor wires. They are nice. The scale on them is really subtle. They are not elevated too high above the deck. I'd say they're pretty close to scale. So even though I'm going to be covering this with an Artwalks deck, if you weren't going to be doing that, you can totally keep those arrestor wires. Dry brush them, they'll pop. By the way, I'm using a Pontos deck, not an Artwalks deck, so sorry for the misspeaking there. Island pieces, again, really similar two-piece construction to what you see with Trumpeter. Got some gun tubs there. Actually, no, those are your pieces of the island itself. They layer cake together, which will make painting certainly easier. There's your gun tubs. Those are 40 millimeters, mast, other mast pieces, or maybe that's some sort of a mount for a radar. Gun tubs, 40 millimeters. Those are some 20 millimeter Oerlikon tubs, I believe, down there at the end. Yeah, okay. This is kind of a weird fret here. It's your waterline plate, cut into two pieces, which I've never seen before. It's got these little interlocking tabs, I guess to make sure that everything is nice and snug. So slip those together. Locator pins to go into those holes. You got some cross bracing here for inside the hull. And, oh yeah, boat pockets. These are devoid of really any detail. As you can see, they're just clean plastic on the inside. Even though they're going to be mostly obscured by the Bofors mounts, you'd want to gussy those up a little bit, I think, at least, just to give them some life. Even scratch build some doodads in there, even if it's not completely accurate, if you don't have a good reference, just something to make that look busier. I should point this out before I forget. The waterline plate is different from what you see on most of these waterline kits. Most kits, let me go ahead and take this piece of cardstock here. Come on. See why I shouldn't bite my nails so much. Can't pick up things. All right. Most waterline kits are going to sit, or plates are going to sit underneath their ship in question. So you'll have a plate underneath. You got to sand that line, that join line. If you flip the hull here over, you'll see there's a fine recessed line right there on the inside of the hull, which means that the waterline plate is going to sit inside the hull here. So you won't be able to see it. It'll be completely inside and underneath. So the bottom of the kit is that bottom line right there. And that's great. That is really thoughtful engineering. And I wish more kits, designers felt that way. Because trust me, that line with the waterline plate on these kits, I mean, you've probably built these. You know it's not the end of the world, but it's a pain. You know, it's something you got to clean up. And if you don't get it just right, it stands out. So A+ for Tamiya's thinking on that. And other designers can totally take note, because that needs to happen more often. All right, you get two of these. These are your weapons frets. You know, it is what it is. Weapons frets are always hit or miss, in my opinion. I'll point out some highlights, I think, on this one. The ship's boats. The life rafts have really subtle netting detail. It's so subtle, I don't think you can even see it here on the camera. Trust me, it's there, though. That will highlight really, really nicely with a wash. The aircraft, while the aircraft themselves are nice, by the way, you get 4 TBF TBMs and 4 F6Fs, all equipped with the radar pods for night action. The aircraft themselves are nice, but the canopies are plastic, as you can see, so you'd have to paint them, and I tend to prefer the clear aircraft, so I can just mask off the canopies. And then there's the real no-go, which are the landing gear struts, which, as you can see, are just basic pegs, no detail to them at all. And I hate that. I think that in the 21st century, kit builders can do better than that. That's just kind of lazy. These might be nice aircraft if you're going to do an in-flight scene, if you've got them mounted above a carrier or any other scene. Just shear those off, and that might be all right, except for the windshields. What else we got? I got some more life rafts. Again, that's nice stuff. There's your twin 5-inch 38 mounts, single 5-inch 38 mounts. They are not very detailed. They'll do, but aftermarket might be an option. Your Oerlikons are here, or your Oerlikon shields are here. And for injection molded, they're really not bad. Try to twist it so you can see how thick they are. I mean, I've got photo etch, but I'm going to keep those in case I'm ever out of photo etch one day and just need some shields, because they're totally acceptable in my book. We got paravanes, 40mm Bofor quad mounts. You can't see it too well in the video, but these are pretty good for their scale. You have actual ribbing on the sleeves over the barrels, so there's actual texture there. And yes, that is what it is. I like them. I'm still going to replace them with something like 3D model parts or Blue Ridge models, but they're acceptable. There's your Bofor's mounts, ship's boats, which are always awful. I don't know why any company can't get ship's boats right. At least we don't have the fore and aft holes for a davit. Anchors, there's a rangefinder. Flip you back over here. Oh yeah, and then the Oerlikons themselves, pretty good for injection molding. You have the curved shoulder mount visible. The barrels themselves are clean, they're straight. I've seen some pretty poor 20mm Oerlikons in 1/700 scale, and these don't qualify as pretty poor. They are worth keeping if you don't want a spring for aftermarkets. I'd hang on to those and use them. All right, what else we got? Move you out of the way. Your ever-present waterline metal plate. We all know what those are. Decals. One sheet of decals. It's really hard to speak to how clean they are. They don't feel very thick. They're super lightly colored, which I don't know if that's going to be a negative effect on the weathering or why they're so dark / faded. But you got that. There doesn't appear to be any kind of other film over it, so don't really know what's up with that. But you've got deck stripes, you've got an elevator marking there, and you've got some aircraft insignia. And that's all there is to the decals. Okay, and then lastly we have a nice color called out for paint in her Measure 21 scheme. What's really weird is the call out is for something called AS8, which I've never heard of. I don't know if that's a Japan only color or what. Fun fact, if you are going to do navy blue 5N, my personal mix is to do 1 part XF17 to 3 parts XF18. I think that makes a pretty good replication of navy blue 5N. Now, disclaimer, I'm mostly colorblind, so use that mixture at your own risk. But I think that's probably a pretty good mix. What do you got back here? That's different. It's a history of the ship in Japanese and English. You don't normally see this on a painting guide, so it's just a nice little touch. They did this separate. I haven't read this yet. I can't speak at all to its accuracy or grammar, but we'll take a look at that maybe a little bit later. And that's all of the Tamiya parts in the box. Now, the Pontos set is obviously also in the box, and I'm going to go over what you get with it, because it's really, I think, the highlight of this kit, in my opinion. First, multiple instruction pages, very clearly written, nice call-outs for individual pieces. This is going to be your refueling booms, accommodation ladders, some davits, maybe, deck edge, railing. Those look like they're supports for Bofor's mounts. So good stuff there. This is a 3D CAD drawing of how to build a Oerlikon. I'm going to give it a try, actually. I'm going to go insane because these parts are the size of a termite's head, but still, I'm going to try at least one and see how that goes. Here's what you get with the dry transfer decals. That's not the actual decal sheet. That's just a illustration. Because on the back side you have the flight deck. Multi-step. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How and in what sequence to apply photo etch, dry transfer decals. Starting with cut this out, put on this photo etch, put on these decals, put on this photo etch, put on this photo etch. So it's really, I hate to say foolproof because somebody, usually me, will find a way to prove that headage wrong, but it's really clear and concise and well done. I wish that more companies put as much thought into their instructions. 5-star. Looking at you. Okay, another set of instructions here. You have the island, and one thing that I think is nifty about this is how it mirrors the assembly steps you get in the kit instructions. So there'll be less flipping back and forth between pages and booklets. It's really handy. It's thoughtful to the builder for sure. Parts to remove, and then the photo etch pieces to replace them with. We got windscreens, catwalks, radars, braces. Over here are your air wing. Here's those landing struts. Clip them off, replace them with photo etch. You know, I wonder, this could just be conspiratorial of me, but I wonder if companies like Tamiya aren't in league with photo etch companies, because you look at that landing gear and you could do better than that in 2017. I mean, Trumpeter's landing gear, it's not great, but at least it looks like landing gear. But again, that's just pegs. I mean, that looks like the same type of gear that you saw in Revell's 1520 something Yorktown kit from the 1960s. And here it is 2017, that's what we're getting. For shame. But photo etch is going to relieve that. What do you got? Cranes, radars, radar platforms, bofers, mounts, masts. Okay, this will be over. All right, here's your funnel components. I think this is really nifty. This multi-assembly here goes together into uptakes, which go underneath the funnel grills. That's so clever. It's probably going to be really tricky to install and build correctly, but thoughtfulness like that, again, Pontos, you're really winning me over here. I've never built a full Pontos PE set, and if they're all this nice, then you're going to get a customer, because man, that is some thoughtful engineering design, and most importantly, communication to the builder. Oh, what do we got here? Windscreens, catwalks, radars, the usual. Here are your pockets, the boat pockets / gun pockets now, and some of the details that the company has provided for you. So interior platforms, railings, walkways, stairs, things that will really make the area look much busier and will really improve those otherwise bland boat pockets. Okay. Sorry, had to take a drink there. Your flight deck is 2 pieces, which is probably the only downside I would give it, is that it's not a single piece. But the seam line is right at, that looks like it's probably the crane mount. So you combine them like so. But it's really textured, which is different in my opinion than the Artwalks decks, which are a little bit more smooth. I like this. This is really going to weather up nicely. Being real wood, of course, it'll behave like real wood, but the fact that it's pre-stained and it's textured, that gives you some really fun options, I think, for pastel work and getting this wood to pop in different and really visually vibrant ways. So that's nicely done. Here's your dry transfer decals. I've never actually done dry transfer decals. I have a few sets for another kit that I have not yet attempted. I've seen some helpful how-to videos on YouTube, but I can't speak to how well they work. But if you want to know, I'd check them out, I suppose. I, at this point, could not tell you if they're good or bad. And then all of the brass. This big honkin' bag of brass goodies is, I kind of stare at it sometimes because it's so pretty. It's so nice. I'm going to go ahead and look at each fret with y'all real quick. Let's see. First are your boat pocket platforms. your Oerlikon splinter shields. Those little things there are, I believe, elevator screws for Oerlikons, and there's your actual Oerlikon barrels. So super tiny stuff. Yeah, it looks like some sort of a holder. Yeah, that whole thing that's your Oerlikon assembly right there. All right. Got yourselves another weapons fret with, those are Bofors mounts. Those are elevation, I don't know what you would call them, but the thing that makes the Bofer go up and down. Doors, antenna, brackets, railings. I do love these arrestor wires because look at how the wires, the cables and the actual arrestor mechanisms are molded, etched together. That, if you can cut that out and not muck up the wiring, is going to look really good, I think. So good times, Pontos. Ladders, stairs. Okay, pull that down a little bit. I think we're too close. There we go. All right. Next is another set of tons of stuff. So these look like your funnel uptakes with your funnel grills there. Pretty sure that these are handrails. That curve matches the curve of the funnel, so I'm pretty sure those are going to be handhold rails. Pre-cut sections of railing and catwalk, which is nice so that you don't cut too much or too little. These are your flight deck edge nets and the supports that go below them, which is something that the other flight deck net set I've used from Gold Medal Models did not have. So while that will make it more complicated, it'll also make it look more accurate. Pre-cut railing lengths. You got some platforms there, some windscreens. What do you got there? Another platform, mast components, radars, and the like. Okay. And then one more fret, and this is I think steel. This is really thick and rigid. And you have here the edges to your elevators, which are supposed to be cut out from the Artwalks deck. And then I'm pretty sure these are going to be deck edge catwalks, looking at the way that they contort on each other. Let me see. Or could it just be deck edging? I'd have to take a look at the instructions. There's your windbreak. Here's some other doors. Let me see. Yeah, doors. I'm not sure why those doors are steel, whereas you've got half a fret of other doors, which are brass. So I have no idea why these are thicker, but I'm sure the instructions will make that more clear. And that's what you get in this box. So a nice kit and a really nice photo etch set combined to make this, I think, the definitive Saratoga in 1/700 scale. Oh man, I almost moved on before getting to my favorite part of the photo etch. Woe is me. This little baggie is your turn brass. You have masts, which are tapered. You have barrels, 5" 38s, and you see these long rows of things that look like peas in a pod there? Yeah, those are your Oerlikon pedestal mounts. That's right, turn brass Oerlikon pedestal mounts. I'm sure they are going to be the hardest thing in the world to put together at that scale, but I'm going to try it, and I'm going to love every second that I'm also hating myself for trying it. I see a lot of people that see the photo etch work I do, and they're really impressed. Wow, how do you do that? And let me just tell you, it's hard. You know, it's not easy. I see something like that, and I think, oh, it's so sexy. Oh, I'm going to go blind trying it. Like my camera's going blind now. There you go. So practice makes perfect, y'all, but it's a challenge. Every day is a challenge, but one that I totally welcome. Well, that's what you get in the kit. As I was starting to say before I got sidetracked, I think it's the best sort of Saratoga on the market in this scale. Disclaimer, I haven't built Trumpeter's Saratoga, but I have built their Lexington. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great kit. This, combined with the Pontos set, I would say edges it out. Without the Pontos set, I think Trumpeter's probably got some nicer stock details. No offense to me, don't send the goons after me, but that's just the way it is. Let me put your box art right there so people don't forget who I'm talking about. it's nice. It's a good kit, and if you can find it for a good price, pick it up. If you can find it with this for a good price, by all means, pick it up. Don't even think twice, because that Pontos set is just so good. In case you're wondering, I am not going to build her in her Measure 21 scheme. I'm going to build her in her Measure 3211A scheme. Disruptive camouflage. She was painted like this for a brief time in 1944. She was painted like this out of the yards. She had to go back to the yards not too long after leaving because she rammed a destroyer. So when she was there, she was repainted in Measure 21. So there was no combat that she saw in this disruptive scheme. But I really like this pattern. And it's either this or night camouflage. And I'm doing Franklin right now, CV-13 in Measure 21. And it's so solid. I want to try something that's a real challenge. So that'll be this scheme. By the way, in case you're wondering, this is David Doyle's Squadron at Sea Saratoga book, which is packed full of reference material. So it's going to be really, really helpful when I dive into this build hardcore. When am I going to dive into this build? I don't know. I currently have too many other intense ship builds going on. The Franklin vignette, which I posted about in another video, as well as a USS Abraham Lincoln build. So it's on the list. It's going to be between this and a USS Iwo Jima by Hobby Boss, I think, as for my next carrier build. But it's going to be a few months down the road anyways. That said, keep watching this channel or my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/themuseummodeler with 1 L. Also, the blog that I operate intermittently, which is themuseummodeler.wordpress.com. I haven't updated it in quite some time, but there's some older stuff on there that is still, I think, pretty interesting and relevant, so check it out. Write me a comment or a question if you have any. And in the meantime, I wish you all some happy modeling and enjoy yourselves. Have yourselves a wonderful night. Thanks for watching.